Yeah, okay, come on. Let's get your game face on. Yeah, come on, let's do this.
Hi, and welcome to another Slice of Sci-Fi video review. I'm Darren Goldswick.
I'm Noah Richmond.
And today we are reviewing
Hellboy. That's right, 2019, the David Harbour Hellboy.
Strange.
Yeah, so of course what we're talking about here is Hellboy, the comic book, the latest adaptation, previously something that had been done by Academy Award winning director
Benicio del Toro.
That's right, except Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, you know what? Yes, Guillermo.
Hey, I said that's right.
You know what? Yeah, that's right. That's okay. Del Toro. I could have said that and been safe. Great director.
Right. Now handed over to Neil Marshall. Neil Marshall is somebody who a lot of what he's directed in feature films wouldn't be as prominently known. I think of him as the director of The Descent, which was certainly a popular kind of indie horror film, playing underground and playing on people's sense of claustrophobia. Also the director of Dog Soldiers. But
oh God, yeah, I didn't see that either.
but of course, these days he's known better as director for Game of Thrones, two of the more popular episodes.
Really?
Yeah.
Like the Battle of the Bastards, or
Blackwater.
oh, okay. Like I know what that exact episode is.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping.
Beyond the Wall.
I kind of wanted to look it up on my
Yeah,
phone
I mean,
before we started this, so I could be
right.
like, "Hey, it's."
Well, but I mean that's cool. I mean, like
Right.
there's been so many directors throughout the show's history that to expect to know that would be pretty impressive, actually. But
Yeah.
like you said,
Yeah.
director of two of the episodes for Game.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So best known for Game of Thrones. So anyway, this is somebody that does have some background. We know he's gonna, has some background with some real production value, and he's definitely churned out some quality product. David Harbour seemed like an interesting choice for Hellboy, and then Mike Mignola, the
writer.
Yep, artist-writer of the comic book, was executive producer and worked on the consultant on the screenplay. So
Did he work on the previous ones too? I'm curious.
that is an excellent question. I am not sure how much involvement he had. I suspect he had more involvement with this than the previous. This one draws pretty heavily on the Hellboy story, The Wild Hunt. But also incorporates elements of a couple other of the Hellboys, somewhat later down the line. Not quite as early as some of what Del Toro drew on for his first Hellboy story. Anyway, what did you think? What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I'm not as familiar with the source material as you are. I mean, I had read some issues, so I had some familiarity. And backing up to the original Del Toro movies, I enjoyed those. Number one more than I did number two, but for the most part, I did enjoy those. Was kind of shocked when they did a reboot of it because Ron Perlman was pretty damn good as Hellboy. But yeah, I was excited. I loved the trailer when I saw it. So I mean, and David Harbour has done such a great job in Stranger Things that I think right now he's such a hot name that I don't know that he would have got this part had he not been so popular with Stranger Things, because I think he does an amazing job in that show anyway. But yeah, I mean, I was excited to see it, and come on, it's Hellboy.
Okay. My thoughts about this one. I actually think that this really adheres closer to the graphic novels than Del Toro's. In many ways, I think it kind of captures the chaos and the craziness of the comic book. It's a film that really throws a lot at you, and it could maybe fairly be accused of sloppy editing.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, I didn't know we were going there yet, but yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, it does capture that quality of the sort of madcap, just chaotic, over-the-top nature of a lot of what is actually in Hellboy. And I think it tells the Hellboy stories not just faithfully, but I think in a lot of ways captures a lot of the feel of what it is to read them.
Well, you know, it's since you've read Hellboy more than what I'm wondering is that the non-fan or the average movie watcher who is not familiar with it, they may have a tough time grabbing onto this movie because I don't think it does as good of a job as the previous ones at framing his backstory.
Yeah.
Because there's practically none there, actually. It's like a faint version of it, but as you referenced that the editing is really sloppy, and it's like it was done by two drunk dudes that just... But again, yeah, despite itself, I just don't know that a person who's familiar with the source material would get the same effect as you or I did, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not as familiar with it as you are, but, you know, still had fun.
Yeah, so that's the thing. When we've talked about this with each other, we have said that this is a pretty good example of fast food filmmaking. Yeah. In fact, in some ways, I call it a sugar rush movie, where there's not a lot of nutritional value, but there's just a kind of what do you call it? Enjoyment factor, entertainment factor, and it really does have that. If you can put your brain in check and just sit back and kind of go with what it is, it really does take you on a ride, and it has a lot of fun with itself.
Well, it reminded me of a lot of things of like some of the Eastern Europe type of cinema with the low CGI effects.
Yes.
I can't believe they spent a lot of money on this. I mean, who knows? And even in the credits, there were a lot of Russian type names that were part of the CGI team, and so I got to believe they probably did this really cheap. Not implying that they can't do good quality, but I'm just saying it just had this B-movie type vibe to the whole movie, and so. But I was having fun with it. I think despite the technical problems that it has, which by God there are a lot of them in this movie, the way they develop the characters, there's no cohesive from scene to scene. You know, there's a lot of assumption that you, the viewer, already know a lot about the backstory of Hellboy. And I think a lot of critics or people may have a problem with that because movies should be designed to just watch as if you don't know anything about that person or the subject. But this doesn't do that, and I think that's going to be a problem for some people. However, I was okay with it because I had a hell of a time with this movie. I mean, I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. I mean, there's some gratuitous violence, beheadings and whatnot. So I mean, it's not for everybody, but I had a fun time with it. And
I definitely felt like this was Hellboy for the Evil Dead 2 crowd. I'll be interested to see if this film finds its audience because it's aimed at a particular mindset. It's something that probably got made after Deadpool became a surprising success. But also, it's something that I think suffers from the fact that it is a reboot of a film series that had been done by an Oscar-winning director.
It's almost unfair to compare the two.
Right.
I mean, inevitably, David Harbour's performance is going to be compared to Ron Perlman's, and I think, despite all that, he's I don't know if he had fun doing the part, but you can tell he did a serviceable job. I just, the gallows type humor that's in here. I mean, to me, it felt very Monty Python like in some of the ending scenes, and I was one of you guys laughing, but I mean, I was laughing my ass off, and I don't know if that was the intention of the director, but love of God, there's some funny stuff in there, and that's the biggest takeaway I had about this movie is that I still, technically, it was a challenge. It was awful. It had no development between scenes. It was like they would just squeeze all this information into one 1 minute scene, like major character points that like I guess I have to know about this person now, and it was like that's secondary, and they just wanted to get to the fun part, I guess, and I don't know if there's going to be a director's cut later on to help map this out a little more, but If you watch this movie, you'll see what we're talking about. It just feels really rushed in some areas where they just dropped all these major plot points into this one scene, and you have like 3 people talking at the same time, and they're all trying to establish some points that are going to matter later in the movie. And it's kind of, there's a lot of assumption there. And again, despite all that, not to be honest, but I was having a hard time with that during those scenes. And it was like, maybe the first part to the middle of the movie, I was just thinking, man, this is not working. But then I don't know, maybe it gathered its wheels a little bit, and it just became really fun. I mean, I'm going to want to watch it again, just for that reason. You know, it's one of those, like you said, fast food movies that just...
Right. Myself, I enjoyed the film. I thought that David Harbour, I actually liked him quite a bit better as
Did you really?
as Hellboy than I did Ron Perlman.
Really?
And I thought that the whole film just captured a certain quality of fun that I actually thought was missing from the Del Toro films.
Yes, I would agree with that. That there was this fun factor, and not to mention, like you had said earlier, it matched the source content of the comic book, where you had a lot of gore, and it was like just this vivid blood everywhere, and just they really did that in this movie on spades, man. It was like, man.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I thought they let loose. They had a good time with it. They put some pretty memorable visuals in there. That Baba Yaga.
Yeah. That was kind of a creepy looking.
That was a creepy looking witch.
And yes, I would, that in another format, a horror, would have been a damn effective witch. In fact, when she first comes out of her, I don't know what hole that she was in, and tries to walk, because she has no spine apparently. I don't know. I was thinking, man, this is kind of, like I said before, it reminded me of Silent Hill, the video game where you had these creatures that wore nurse outfits, and they couldn't. But yeah, it was kind of creepy. But again, in this movie, it stood out more because of it, I guess. You know.
Yeah.
But that's because it was so ridiculously over the top. This whole movie was like that, you know, and so I was able to like it. I just don't know that critics are going to like this movie the same way you and I did.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's a fair statement.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see, you know, if there's an audience that catches onto it, because the problem is that it's called Hellboy, and so everybody's going to compare it to Del Toro, and it's a completely different take. It's more faithful, but I don't know that a lot of people are going to understand that and appreciate it.
I hope if it doesn't do well, it doesn't put a mark on the director, you know, because I hate to see, because I have a bad feeling about this movie. But like I said,
about how it's going to be received.
About how the movie's going to be received, how it's going to do at the box office, you know.
Right.
But who knows? This could be one of those cult movies that, like Judge Dredd.
Right.
Not the Stallone version, of course, but you know.
Yeah, the Dredd film.
The Dredd film that just has become so popular in, you know, in fandom, and so maybe this movie will reach that point because it is so close to the source material.
Yep.
But who knows? But we enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's not a perfect film. Maybe ideally you'd want something that was somewhere in between this film and the Del Toro film.
Right.
But you know what? This film was just, you know, go in, take it for what it is, sit back. It really is a fun ride.
Yep.
I had a lot of fun with it. I think that's probably both our thoughts. So.
Yep. I had a great time with it too. So.
And thanks for watching Slice of Sci-Fi.
See ya.